Tô precisando aquecer minhas cordas vocais. Eu acabei de acordar. Enfim, gente, pra eu conseguir monetizar meu canal, eu tenho que fazer algum vídeo que dure 10 minutos. Então por isso que eu vou ficar aqui te enrolando, beleza? Até porque o budo desse vídeo tá aqui de 11 minutos. Então é só isso que eu queria falar. E vai ficar aqui gravando por uns 10 minutos. Beleza? E falhou. Só 10 minutos gravando, eu acho.
As Alpha has entered a home. The home contains multiple visible infected organisms, and Herbie's camera was raised slowly as to not draw attention. Alpha walks around its home multiple times before stopping at another infected, hereafter known as Beta, sitting on a bed. Beta is unable to leave the bed for unknown reasons, but is not completely immobile, as it flails its arm in response to the beatings delivered by Alpha. Moments later, a piercing sound explodes from the area around Beta, who then proceeds to project a cloud of unknown matter into the air from its chest cavity. Alpha lingers in the cloud as it floats in the air around them, slowly descending to the ground. The unknown life form on the table aside Beta.
Não precisa aquecer minhas cordas vocais.
Several shots were fired at the creature's face. When the creature's face fell on him and the camera was pushed to the ground, the screams were obscene. Hello everybody, I'm the Rubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Euclid Class Object SCP-093 Part 2. SCP-093 is a red disc carved from cinnabar with symbols on it. It will change you when you are a living individual. A series of testing on human interaction with mirrors while holding 093 have been authorized. To know more about 093 and its first mirror test, click here to watch part 1. Records below details the second testing. Mirror Test 2. Color green. Test subject D54493 was a 23-year-old female with average physique and had a history of car robbery and second-degree murder of 2 children. The subject entered the provided mirror while holding SCP-093, which emitted a green color. Outside technicians observed that the mirror retained a true reflection until subject had completely passed into it, at which time the view changed to a farming landscape heavily tinged in green. The camera was on. The subject looked up, and in front of her was a farmland. The field had been long abandoned, with the remains of a rotten scarecrow placed in the middle. On the right was a 2-story farmhouse, with a basement shelter entrance at one end. The subject then headed over and investigated the perimeter of the farmhouse. There, she found 2 children's bicycles leaning on the house near the cellar door. As the subject entered the cellar, on the stairs were boys' clothes, arranged in descending order, shoes and shirt. The subject started screaming at the control center and asked if this was some sort of sick joke. It was unknown if SCP-093 was linking the subject's past with her landscape. After several minutes, the subject agreed to continue. The basement was unremarkable, with several wooden frames lined up on the wall, with unnamed canned substances on them. Subject panned the camera across the basement slowly. It looked as if it had been abandoned for some time, and subject complained of a stench. The subject then opened and entered the hatch. Below the hatch was a white concrete tunnel. The inside of the hatch was spacious, about half the size of the actual cellar itself. There were 3 bunks, 1 for a couple, and 2 for single use. Several boxes of food marked as cereal filled a waste container near the hatch bottom. On the beds were 2 skeletons, and on the floor was a third, lying next to a 6-shooter revolver. On the other side of the skeleton, a bound book was found. The subject retrieved and placed the book into a field kit container upon request. She was also told to get the old clip articles that were on a desk into the field kit container. The subject was told to leave the bunker. When the subject grabbed the ladder and was ready to leave, The camera caught a humanoid figure peeking down from the top of the tunnel, but subject stated that nothing was up there and started climbing up the ladder. At the top of the tunnel, the subject insisted that there was nothing there. She vomited immediately after the hatch was closed. After coughing for a while, the subject suddenly heard a noise. She was startled by the sound, but control reported no audio. Subject approached cellar hatch cautiously, pulled out firearm, and lifted her head just enough so camera can view the outside area. In the distance, approximately 700 meters from the farm, two massive humanoid beings were crawling across the landscape. They had no facial features. The arms they used for crawling were short at times and long at others. It's different each time they moved. There was no rear area to the beings. All bodily design appears to end at the torso. The two creatures took approximately 10 minutes to disappear into the distance. Then, the subject began to panic and begged to return. Request declined. Subject instructed to enter the home from the cellar through a rusty hatch in the ceiling. The subject entered the kitchen first. All of the items were coated in heavy dust. The subject then entered the living area. There was a recliner, a couch, and a television, all of 1950s style design. The main door of the home was nailed shut with thick wood planks. Camera panned to a staircase leading upstairs. When subject reached the top of the stairs, there were two doors, one on each side of the hallway, and at the end of the hall, a dumbwaiter was inlaid into the wall. The door on the left led to a master bedroom. The bed was neatly made, but the wardrobe next to it was thrown open, and clothes were everywhere on the floor. Subject quickly left the room because of the horrible odor. The second door led to a shared children's bedroom, which seemed to belong to a boy and a girl. There was also a window which subject approached, and upon request, she moved the camera to capture the outside view. When the camera panned down and filmed the area around the house, approximately 300 figures were all staring right up at her. Subject asked to confirm the figures, but stated nothing
7
was there.
minutos.
The subject was told to quickly return. Nothing happened when subject got out of the farmhouse. Subject returned through point of origin, and mirror returned to reflective surface. SCP-093 relinquished. Mirror test 3. Color violet. Subject was D84930. Male, 21 years old, and had a record of second-degree murder of a police officer during a drug bust. This subject was uncooperative. Subject entered the provided mirror while holding SCP-093, which emitted a violet color. The mirror retained a true reflection until subject had completely passed into it. The view changed to a cityscape urban, lightly tinged in purple. Camera turned on and panned around the area. Subject was in a modern downtown district similar to a city like New York. The streets were almost empty, with only a few cars of unknown model. The subject wiped off a window that was covered in dirt and discovered that the inside of the car was completely filled with a strange brown matter. The other two cars were the same. However, the inside of the fourth vehicle was immaculate. The doors to this vehicle were unlocked, and subject entered the car and then quickly closed the door, hoping that he would be able to escape by cutting off the cable. Subject argued with control over this issue. Subject looked around the cityscape from the car, while control was discussing how to proceed since the city landscape was far larger than the previous test destinations. During one pan, a face was clearly seen staring into the car, and eyes were on the subject. However, this was not noticed until post-test footage review. Control soon informed subject to remain where he was, and a team of 4 armed personnel were dispatched through the mirror to join him. Subject was then instructed to remove his harness. Subject's video feed then ended and was replaced by a wireless camera used by the escort team. Subject left the car and moved with the team. They then entered a building with XEA Research Partners Incorporated painting on all of the glass doors. In the lobby, there was a C-shaped receptionist desk with a PC terminal on the desk. The team approached and examined the PC, and Faithful OS appeared on the screen, which required a password to log in. After one failed attempt, the PC turned off automatically. Behind the receptionist's desk were two elevator doors. Using the elevator on the right, the team was instructed to proceed to the highest floor, level 114, to get an overview of the city. At level 114, the doors opened, and the team entered a large lounge. A series of windows were open, and the team went over to place the camera outside. The city below was gray and silent. Some buildings in the city were covered with strange brown growth, as if a gelatinous mass were flung and then sinked down before hardening. From another window, the team noticed a highway that encircles the city, upon which crawled another of the large half-body humanoids, dragging itself with its elastic arms as witnessed in previous tests. It traveled the highway, then moved out of sight. The team then returned to the elevator and agreed to travel to level 74. The 74th floor was a doctor's office. At the reception